Um, Let me tell you a little bit about Chuck. Chuck was born in the US. He was born in California, but he actually grew up in Germany. And we've actually got somebody on from Germany today. Interesting family. His father is a nuclear physicist. His mom was also a scientist, but she was a pro windsurfer. And he's been skiing, I think, since he was like 2 years old. I think he started surfing a little bit later at 13. And what's really interesting about Chuck is he kind of does it all. Like there are big wave surfers and there are extreme skiers, but Chuck is a big wave surfer. He's a big wave skier, which we'll talk about, which is super interesting. Snowboarder, kiteboarder, windsurfer, and he does it all at a world-class level, which is like insanely odd. Nick Woodman, who's the CEO of GoPro, and you might have seen him on Shark Tank, he called Chuck the world's best multi-sport extreme athlete. So to say that Chuck Patterson is an outlier would be the understatement of the century. So before we get into it, Kathy, kick us off. That introduction was brought to you by Mike Perlow. If you need video work done, he's the man. Chuck, it is good to see your smiling face, my friend.
Well, I'm very honored and super stoked to be here. And I mean, following all those legends, wow, I don't know if I'm really part of that, but I'm very honored to be here and super stoked to talk with you guys today.
No, you are very much in that group. You know, we're a believer that anybody can be ordinary, but we all have the power to choose to be extraordinary. And you chose to be extraordinary. I'm going to dive right in. I've got a ton of questions for you. I'd like to talk about the impact that your mom and dad had on you. And I think it's a little bit different. So as I said before, your dad was a nuclear physicist. Your mom was a pro windsurfer. Talk about the impact that they had on your life. And then maybe even some of your dad's friends. I think the story goes that some of his friends are like, Chuck, dude, this is not like a way to live a life. You can't make a living. You got to get a real job. And that kind of fueled something in you that now has lasted decades.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, I'm a firm believer that our parents have a lot to do with, kind of pushing us in a direction. And, my dad was, a nuclear physicist, a strict disciplinarian, which was very good for me. My mother was a big time athlete, but very outgoing and really worked hard to kind of push. I think she was a very strong woman. So, like women's rights and all that, which was really good for me because I got to see kind of, a lot of new growth and things. And it was very good for me to kind of understand and respect, both sides of my parents. But I got the best of both worlds. My dad was very big into, school and putting my head down and working hard for what I wanted. And then my mother was a little more free, and she was really empowered by sports and making a statement and kind of proving, you know, your worth and what you do with action and not words. And I think that was a great platform for me, and I really kind of followed behind her because I really love sports. I was good at school, but I wasn't driven by it. So I was more driven by sports and kind of trying to find who I was. And of course, my dad, you know, we'd have these big dinners and stuff, and my dad would have his you know, working cohorts and you know, scientific friends that would come, and then of course the topic would go, so, you know, Charles, what do you aspire to do, you know? And I was really, you know, pulled hard into the whole sports aspect, you know, and I would, you know, always say, well, I think I want to kind of, you know, see what I can do with sports. I, you know, really love it. And they would always, you know, basically, you know, give me a hard time and just go, oh, that's not, you know, you're not going to amount to anything. And, you know, kind of said, you know, school's where it's at, you know, you need to get a solid education, which I'm a firm believer behind it. But I just had my heart set on something different. And so that was kind of like a little fuel to the fire that kind of pushed me to kind of prove everyone wrong a little bit, but at the same time, kind of follow what my new passion was, and that was sports. And it wasn't really just one sport, you know, starting at 2 years old skiing, which was a great foundation. You know, you're able to go as fast as you want. You're not afraid of heights, you know, you're out in the elements. So there was a lot I learned from that kind of helped me build a foundation to other sports like water sports or wind sports. And so from that, after that, I learned how to surf, and that bug kind of kicked off, and then windsurfing behind my mom's professional career, and all these doors started opening, and I just had a good knack for it, and I enjoyed it so much that it wasn't really work. And then I started to understand and learn the business side of it, to where I was like, I can actually make money doing this and continue. So that was kind of like a mini, you know, snowball turning into an avalanche, to where I'm still sort of milking that dream today.
It's absolutely amazing. And I think what's remarkable is that at an early age, you really understood what made you happy. And I always say, to me, winning at life is, if I wake up in a good mood, I won life. And I think it seems like that's you pretty much all the time. How do you maintain that happiness? Is it just by doing what you love?
I think when I'm out in the elements doing what I love is, you know, we're all in our happy place. And it's not really just chilling out in the sun or whatever, but doing either sports or helping people better themselves, or just being out around good people and Mother Nature has always been great. But then there's times where, you know, you have an injury or whatnot, and you've got to work twice as hard to kind of bring that happiness back. And, you know, we have our little struggles, you know, that we all, I think, share into kind of bringing that happiness back. And, you know, and so it's back and forth, but obviously at the end of the day, it's the simple things that, you know, keep us happy, that I think are worth living for.
It's amazing. So I apologize. I'm like right in the middle of my first bout with COVID. I was able to dodge it for 3 years. And Saturday I got a positive test, and so I may lose my voice at some point. You know, what's incredible is that you're really an entrepreneur. And you're an entrepreneur. You have to train. You have to do social media. You've got to manage sponsors. You've got to manage travel. And because you do so many different disciplines, you're always kind of chasing the seasons. How do you keep all that stuff going? Because that's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot, but then it also comes with a team. I mean, you know, my wife has been very instrumental in that and kind of keeping things organized. Back in the day, I think before social media and all that, it was a little easier to, you know, you're chasing your dreams. For my sponsors, I was making sure that I was competing at a high level, training. And back then it was all about getting on magazine covers or, you know, on TV, you know, for interviews or whatnot, or doing sports. So it seemed a little easier, but now that has kind of taken a back seat, and social media is really the biggest driver. And if you're smart about it, and I'm still learning about it, and it's a lot of hard work, but it's you know, now we've got a platform to where we can kind of show what we do. And you know, it's neat. It's a little bit scary because you throw, you know, such a beautiful, you know, life out there without the struggles. And I think it gives a false sense of happiness to a lot of people that strive to get there, but will never get there, because it's showing just the goodness and not the hard work or the struggles that we go through, because we're all human. And I try to do my best at, you know, inspiring people through what I do. And, you know, obviously with GoPro and all the new POV cameras, it's made it neat to kind of bring along the viewers with what I love to do. And some people won't have that opportunity. So it's a great way to share that they're right next to me and they feel like they're part of it. But it is a lot of work. And now, you know, as we get older, it's very hard to kind of, you've got work, you've got to pay bills, you've got to be an adult. And I still have that kid inside. I still want to travel last minute. I still want to, you know, be in the water. I want to inspire, you know, the youth that has followed me before. And it's a lot of work, and then training. And then on top of that, not getting injured, you know, and that's it's a like a, how would you say it? It's a hard thing to balance, you know?
Right. Yeah, I can only imagine. You know, so you're known for doing so many different things. And I think there's surfing, then there's big wave surfing, and then big wave skiing. So tell people the origin story about your buddy in Alaska with the water skis, and how that transformed into you deciding, hey, let me take this to the waves in Hawaii and try this out.
Well, coming from a skiing background, that's all I knew. And getting a kind of starting to get a love for surfing when I was 13. I was kind of a late bloomer, but they both resonated. You know, being out in the elements, I really loved it. And so as I got older, I started skiing professional. And then, you know, doing films and traveling to Alaska. At the same time, before winter, I would always go out to Hawaii and train and kind of do water sports and, you know, chase big waves until the snow fell. So it was a great way to go from, you know, summer, surf, train really hard, and then chase waves. And then suddenly when I got enough snow back at home, that was like time to go back home and go for it. And so in that time, we would do a lot of filming, and we were up in Alaska, and a good friend of mine now is passed, is a Red Bull athlete, Shane McConkey, phenomenal athlete, skier, really pushed the sport of skiing where it is today. Took a pair of, you know, water skis, put bindings on them, and skied this insane 2000 vert, you know, line in Alaska, and changed what we knew from skinny skis to, you know, riding fat skis in powder. And he was extremely fast, super controlled, and it was just mind blowing. And I just remember he and I spoke about it, and he was like, you need to do this in the big waves, you know, and you know, I was kind of laughing, going, that's rad. It's kind of like, you know, you're that kid in school, you draw that huge wave and a little surfer in the middle, and, you know, you look at it and go, oh, that would be really cool. And now that's actually kind of the norm, you know, riding a 60-foot wave. And so with skiing, I thought it was kind of funny, but then I was like, you know what, I'm going to give it a shot. And so I went and got a pair of regular jumper water skis. You know, they're just flat, look like planks. And I threw some, you know, and they had normal bindings on them. And I went out to Maui to visit some friends and took a jet ski out. And we whipped into a couple waves, but I would go straight for like 200 yards. And then I couldn't really turn them. And it just didn't resonate with the vision I had in my head, you know. And then I'm looking at Shane ripping a mountain doing turns, and I'm like, okay, the mountain is there, it's liquid, but I'm not doing turns, so it's not, I don't know, it wasn't really what I had in my mind. So I kind of was like, I'm going to table this idea. It's not exactly what it is, so I'm just going to leave it be. And then Shane unfortunately had a bad accident in Italy, and he was ski base jumping and, you know, skied off a cliff and tried to eject one of his skis, didn't come off, and it got caught with a parachute, and he hit and passed away, which was unfortunate. That kind of lit a fire under my butt on what we had spoke about, and I found that kind of like my purpose to give it a shot. And so I had some other friends, extreme skiers younger than me, that did a bunch of R&D on the skis and went out to Maui for a month and tried the skis, and suddenly came out with this really cool video. And the ski design was totally different. And I was like, okay, that's it. That's what I was envisioning. I, you know, wrote to the guys, got a pair of skis made, and then jumped in the water. And one day we were in central, you know, California, and it was a huge swell. It was like 40, 50 feet. And we went out with our jet skis, and I told my ski partner that was driving the jet ski, going, hey, this is what I want to do if we get a chance. So we brought our surfboards, that, you know, our tow boards that we were going to tow with. And then I had put the skis, the poles, and the boots all in this bag and just put them on the side of the jet ski, but I didn't tell anyone because I was a little bit not embarrassed, but I just didn't know if it would work. And I just, you know, like anyone, you want it to be a success, but you're going to have to go through the trials and tribulations. So long story short, we end up getting a lot of good waves, great conditions. And I talked to my buddy and I said, hey, let's drive out to the side and let's give this a shot. So I had mounted ski bindings on these custom skis, and then I had my ski boots. I drilled a couple holes in it so the water would go in and out. And this was all just what I had in my head. It wasn't proven or anything. And I slapped my ski boots into the skis and had a bunch of flotation on. I jumped in the water. I grabbed the ski poles, you know, put the straps around, and everybody's looking at me like, what are you doing? And I'm like, well, I come from skiing, and using my ski poles allows me to kind of, you know, my body language, it will, you know, be the same as skiing is what my thought was. So I grabbed the rope. My partner had no doubt, like, let's do this. So we get out there. I'm pulling behind the jet ski, and a big wave comes, and I go, yeah, this is the one. And he does a big turn. Suddenly he puts me on the wave face. I let go of the rope, and I'm blown away how well these skis basically ride down the wave face. So I ride down the wave face. There's a lot of power. I do a turn and then come back, and unbeknownst to me, the wave explodes behind me, and giant, you know, like 20-foot whitewater hits. And suddenly I'm trying to outrun it, but then kind of engulfs me. I lean on the back of the skis and come flying out, and then make it to the safety of the channel. And I was like, oh my gosh, the light bulb went off. I'm all, this is exactly what I was talking about. And then I was like, I need to get another 100 more waves, because this was just amazing. And so we go back out. Meanwhile, my friends on the other jet skis are towing into the waves with the surfboards, getting great rides, and they stop what they're doing. And then they just end up following behind me going, what is he doing? And from that day on, I got a really cool picture in the back of Surfer magazine, which is, you know, kind of a funny thing because it's not surfing, but I was on a big wave, and that kind of just started something. There was a lot of ridicule, a lot of funky comments going, what is he doing? The guy's an idiot, this and that. But if we always listened to that, we wouldn't really push ourselves to greatness. And so I kind of used that to fuel what I wanted to do and really get this a little bit more dialed. And so we went out to other breaks, got it dialed. And then I thought the precipice for me would be to go kind of like in skiing, to go to Alaska and ski the biggest mountains in the world, would be to go to Jaws, the famous big wave break off of Maui, and see if I can do it in giant surf. And I got a lot of support from Michael Douglas with Solomon Ski TV and Red Bull to do this. And we went out there during a giant swell. And I was pretty nervous because suddenly I'm going to the best place where it could either kill you or you're going to prove that this is something awesome, And so a few days before it, we're filming, and I'm just kind of getting used to whipping in with the new skis and stuff. And the final day came, and we went out there, and Jaws is one of those places where it's like a football stadium. You have, the people on the cliff, a bunch of photographers, you have a bunch of boats in the lineup. It's, probably a little short of maybe, I don't know, I'd say probably 300 yards offshore. And the biggest waves come from super deep and then hit this reef, and then they basically build 3 times as high and just create this insane wave. So the storm day came. It was great conditions, and then it got really windy within an hour, and we were pulling into waves on our tow boards and getting waves, and I thought, well, if the conditions get any worse, I might not be able to do this. So we went to the side, put the skis on. My partner towed me back out, and there's probably 10 other jet skis out there with surfers, all looking at me like I'm crazy. And I just was like, all right, we got to do it. So we waited for our wave. We got a set wave, and everybody was going right. So I decided to go left. I took off on this wave. All right, let go of the rope, and I'm trying to go down this wave face, but the wave is so big, I'm kind of being held up at the top. At the same time, there's a helicopter with a camera that kind of hovered down near me to shoot, and all the rotor wash and spray and the wind basically held me up at the top, where I almost didn't make it into the wave. And so my natural instinct was to basically go into a ski tuck, where I leaned over and kind of bent over and tried to get some speed going, so it was a little more aerodynamic. And then I started pushing with the ski poles, which really didn't do much, but I think it made it to where my weight went forward. And suddenly the wave started to break, and I kind of just dropped off the ledge and did this crazy wild, ride all the way to the left, and made it down the line, and then kicked out, and my partner grabbed me, and all I heard was people screaming cheers, just like, what the heck just happened? And went out, got 2 more waves, and then I decided to kind of call it, because I didn't want to be greedy and have something happen. And the next day, social media and, viral videos went crazy with it. And then it became just this really cool, thing that kind of exploded. And I just kind of went with it, and then kind of owned it from there, and still love doing it as well. It's just one of those fun things, but it just taught me a lot for when you have a dream or something inside of you, and it fuels just you. It doesn't matter what anyone else thinks, and you do whatever it takes to kind of put it out there and see if it works. It's just such an awesome feeling of accomplishment. Kind of like what Robert Owens, who's one of my very inspiring good friends, has done many times. And it's just neat, to do something like that and accomplish it, and come out a winner inside. I don't care what anyone else says, but it's just a neat thing. And if it impacts other people to chase their dreams, that's a super win-win for me.
Unbelievable story. Unbelievable. I think what a lot of people don't know is that when you're doing this, you're literally wearing ski boots and bindings, so that unlike when you're surfing, if you wipe out, like, it's how do you get the skis off? You really can't.
Yeah, that was the one thing that there was no thinking in that one. It was one of those where I know how to ski, this and that, and I thought, using the ski bindings and the ski boots kept my feet and locked in at the same time. It gave me more ability to have control going down the bumpy wave faces. But then there's that other idea when things go wrong, and it's not if, it's when. And I just was like, all right, everything happened so quickly. I was like, I just need to pick the right waves. I need to make sure that I have water safety behind me. The only way to get the skis off is basically click my bindings, take one ski, overlap it on the back of the other binding, pop that, and then do the same with my foot on the other, which takes a solid, 30, 40 seconds. And if you're eating it on a wave, the risk was you're going to break your legs or worse, but I didn't think of that risk. I thought of like, I knew it could be done. I just had to be patient and pick the right waves. Not saying that down the line, I did, basically have a bad wave and a wipeout, and was very lucky to kind of duck the wave and kind of got stuck underwater, and, didn't want to pop my skis off because I didn't want to lose them in the rocks, and held my breath and finally made it to the surface and was rescued. But, it's, I don't know, there's a lot of people would say, man, you are stupid, you are crazy, you could have killed yourself. But at the same time, I had a lot of confidence, and, I think that's what kept me going. And obviously a couple close calls, but hey, you know what? That's a living. If you're not, if I'm just treading that white line, that straight line going the whole way, and just being ordinary, like you say, which isn't a bad thing, but for me, that didn't really drive me. So that kind of living on the edge a little bit really just, kind of fueled everything, and is what I love even to this day.
What scares you, if anything?
There's a lot of things that scare me. Obviously, failure at anything. I think we can all share in that. Not doing everything I can for my purpose or understanding my purpose. And then kind of just being real, I mean, not getting caught up in, so much stuff to where it's fake, but just being myself. If I didn't have that ability to basically just be confident of who I am and surrounding myself around, good people, I think that's what's scary, and not living to your full potential.
Yeah, one thing I've realized in listening to you on podcasts and just learning more about you is you seem as though you have phenomenal relationships. Like, you have so many people that you care about deeply and that care about you deeply. And Robert is a good example of that. And I think, maybe that's one of the reasons why you've been so successful, is because of that community of people and your ability to, be such a great friend to other people. But it's one of those things that I've consistently heard from you is talking about relationships and how important they are.
Yeah.
Scott, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
ahead.
Chuck, I'm sorry to interrupt, but Scott, I'm sending you messages because I can only have one device on Wi-Fi. I'm sending you messages through Zoom.
Okay, what I'm going to have you do, Kathy, is after this, I'll have you tee up
Okay.
people, because I'm not getting those. So
Okay.
you can tee people up. Sorry about that, Chuck.
No, so yeah, you hit that's, I think you're completely right. I've been very fortunate with all the different sports that I've gotten into to learn from the best or get to know the best. And necessarily there's a lot of people that you look up to, and sometimes they don't resonate with you. And some people really hit you like family, and I've been very fortunate to make some amazing relationships with people that you know have your back no matter what, and have helped me along the way to kind of, you know, are people that I want to emulate, you know, as I get older, whatnot. And I've been very fortunate with all the different sports of meeting some incredible people, and also, you know, the day-to-day, just being out there, just people that, you know, are there for you. And my parents have been amazing. I learned a lot from them. And for me, it is about all the people that you meet that really kind of allow you to open doors and push your limits. I think without that, it's empty, you know, and it's kept me grounded and very humble. Like anything, you know, I can watch a sad movie, and I'll be one of those guys crying and trying to hide my tears because I'm a guy. And, you know, I remember this funny story. I came back from a surf trip and was pretty exhausted, and I'm watching a movie, you know, and we've got like 4 more hours till we land. And of course, it's one of those sad movies, and I'm just trying to be the big guy, and I'm good. And the stewardess, you know, brought over this thing of, you know, handkerchiefs, you know, and says, "You okay?" And I'm like, you know, trying to hide. I'm totally fine. Don't worry about it. I'm good. And then she looks at what I'm watching, goes, "That's the saddest movie ever." And I was like, oh my God. But it's stuff like that, you know, that's we're human, and that's the cool part of it. And I think for me, it's I'm very lucky to be an athlete and be able to do the things I've done. And then I really love inspiring others to be themselves, you know, and meeting people like Robert and stuff that really touch me, you know, I think is what life's, you know, all about.
Love it. All right. I have taken up way too much time, even though I have some great questions about, well, we'll get into it another time, but Kathy, why don't you tee up some folks from the community to talk to Chuck?
All right. So Chuck, in the Outlier Project, it's okay to cry. Just wanted to put that out there in case any tears come up. And to everybody with a question, I apologize. I'm in the middle of the ocean on a cruise ship, and so we had a little technical difficulty. But Randy, you are up first. Randy's calling in from Florida.
Hey, Chuck. Thank you. Quick question. Having seen Mavericks in person and Jaws in person, and then watching the show 100-Foot Wave about Nazari in Portugal, I guess my question is that actually bigger than the others by a lot, or is that not true?
Nazare is definitely, I'd have to say, one of the bigger waves, but at the same time, a very wild wave. So like looking at Jaws and Mavericks, they break kind of at a point, but they pretty much every storm direction, they break kind of in a similar fashion, but they get very big. Nazare has a couple different breaks. They definitely get some of the biggest waves we've seen. But it's a wild wave, so a lot can go wrong there. And we've all seen, you know, especially that documentary, Garrett McNamara and those guys have done some amazing things. And I'd have to say that's probably one of the heaviest wild waves that's out there. And, you know, people that surf there, I mean, that's definitely, you know, a very respected wave for sure. So for me, I'd like to go back there and get that someday. But at the same time, I hold huge respect for the guys, you know, and girls that are charging out there. And yeah, I'd say that's probably one of the heavier waves for sure.
Thank you so much. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Great. So Isabel is joining us from London, and she promises to only ask one out of her million questions for you.
Hi, Chuck.
Nice to meet you.
Amazing to meet you. Really incredible. Incredible. So yeah, my question, because I'm an actress, and I knew when I first stepped on stage as an 11-year-old, and I got the response I got, and I felt the way I felt about being up there, that I was where I needed to be. And I'd loved going to the theatre from a young age. And I see on your website that you say from 2.5 years old, you had that in you. So my question is, do you remember a moment? Clearly your parents inspired you hugely. I can resonate with that as well. Do you remember a moment where you you felt that feeling of Wow, this is something really that I want to do.
That's a really good question. I think when I was super young, I don't know, there's probably a combination or how it built up, but I remember when I was really young, my mom would take us skiing and she'd have me between her legs and then my sister in a backpack. And I just remember that kind of thing, and that feeling and being out in the elements was always something that I just grew to love more and more. And learning different sports, and then going with my mom, you know, getting to leave school and go to a windsurf competition and then compete alongside my mom. It just kept building more and more. And then once I was on my own, and then having my dad and his, you know, always as a supporter, and then his friends kind of fueling the fire of like, hey, in the back of my head, you're not going to amount to anything if you do sports. You need to go to school. And then I had this one time where I was traveling, and I remember this was before cell phones or whatnot, and I had called my mother before I was leaving to go on this windsurf competition, and I had said, I can't believe I'm doing this. I'm doing exactly what I've always dreamed about. And my mom was like, this is all part of it. There's so much more, you know. And I remember being on that plane and just sitting back, looking out the window, you know, kind of in disbelief, but at the same time knowing this is where I had to go. But I didn't realize how many more doors were going to open to just continue that. And it was always new, you know, going from windsurfing to living in Maui and kiteboarding and everything else. It was just a rad process to go through. And so that was the one moment where I really understood that all the decisions that I made where there was a little uncertainty made sense. And then little did I know after that, it just exploded. So that was kind of one of my first times where it really made sense for me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ron Rosansky, you are up. You're on mute, Ron.
Scott, Kathy, thank you for putting this together. It's great to see everybody. Robert, we're going to connect this week. Chuck, thank you for sharing your story, for all your accomplishments, and for living the dream.
Yeah.
I have a bucket list question for you, and everybody's going to be happy that I asked you this question. How long, and I'm serious, how much training does it take for a decent athlete with no surfing experience to be able to surf a big wave?
Hard to put a number on time, but I think it goes to how much willpower and passion that person has. And then, like, let's put it this way. If that person had, let's say, a year at the most, but it was a good, you know, everything kind of fell into place. It was a pretty good athlete, didn't have to be like an incredible athlete. And you came out to Maui for, let's say, I'd say 2 months. Actually, no, I wouldn't even say that. I'd say 1 month, it could be done.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Excellent. That
So
makes
Ron's, Ron's booking a
list.
flight right now.
Yeah, maybe we should make that, you know, but I think if everything came together, and the conditions were good, and obviously there's going to be a little, you know, a couple hurdles here and there. I'm confident within a month, could put you on a big wave.
Awesome. Thanks, Chuck.
Great. So
Book
Steven,
your ticket.
yeah.
Oh, I will. I will.
Steven's calling in from Germany, and he's got a question that's along the same lines, but go ahead, Steven.
Thanks very much, Kathy, and Scott. Thanks for putting this together. And Chuck, it's amazing to meet you. And yeah, in line with kind of following up on what Ron's question was, one of the outlier values is details matter. So I'm a retired Army guy, and we have execution checklists and all of these things. So as you are looking at all of the training and everything that you've been through, so just on average for you, how many hours of preparation go into executing one 5-minute wave?
That's a great question. Yeah, there's a checklist, and I probably, don't realize it half the time because it becomes the norm. For me, I'd have to say, I look at the 45 years of training that I put into doing what I'm doing now, and you can't really kind of put a number on that, but I think everything has kind of helped me prepare for the next sport. And I'd say, every day just trying to stay healthy and being in the pool. A normal day for me is probably when I have, a goal set and to be prepared is, I'm looking at probably 4 to 6 hours of training or preparation to reach that goal, let's say at the end of the week. As far as training all the way around in years, I would use one sport that I got into, and I would have a certain goal. And once I reached that goal, I would then find another sport, and each sport complemented the next. So there was always something that I got from one sport that allowed me to apply it to that sport. And it kind of gave me the upper hand to get into it easier, or I understand something that I did in skiing that worked amazing in windsurfing or in surfing. So I'm probably going all over the place with without answering it exactly, but a lot of time goes into it. But like with military, you have these checklists, and I think one is being mentally and physically prepared, having all your tools of the trade that you're going to use all set to go, and then having your people and your support crew ready to go, and then obviously having the conditions to come together for you to actually do what you set out to do. So a lot has to come together to make it happen, but it becomes a life of training and preparing, and kind of for the unknown, because I do so many different sports. I've just stayed training the whole time, and I always make a joke out of it. I train to keep myself out of the hospital, but that's really what it is.
Awesome. I appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Great. We have a question from Kyle Wallach, who will be on our special event in April.
Hey, thank you guys for having me. Chuck, you're a legend. I have a pretty simple question. Just, do you have a favorite place in the world?
It's a simple question, but then also a hard question.
I figured.
I can't really name one place. I mean, I've Hawaii or Maui has always been one of my favorite places, but I think without naming a place, I think a place that allows me to do a bunch of different sports around some amazing people, and it could be anywhere in the world, is kind of my happy place.
Awesome.
All right, we've got a guest on the call today, Raphael. He is from California as well, and he's a veteran with a small business that I think you'll think is pretty cool. He's got a question for you.
Thank you, Kathy, and thank you to everyone putting this on. Chuck, like the previous person said, you're a legend. This is awesome to hear. Can everyone hear me? Just want to make sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So I'm a veteran. I used to run around with Navy SEALs and stuff, and used to be kind of just high level, always working out. Got into snowboarding last few years, and I love it, that adrenaline rush. So I'm always chasing that now. I build camper vans for folks trying to get off grid.
Awesome.
Camper vans, RVs, all that type of stuff. So my question is, last couple years, I've been getting injured and transitioning out of the military, that high op tempo of chasing since I was 19, working on the most dangerous place in the world and just chasing adrenaline. Now it's kind of tapering off with my injuries. So my question is, how do you know when to stop or when to keep pushing? Because I run into that a lot of, well, do I go off this cliff? Do I not? Do I take that turn? Do I take that wave? Or should I just relax and keep myself out of the hospital.
You know what, your question is monumental because I'm dealing with that right now. In a nutshell, we went out to Cortez Banks, which is 100 miles out to sea to chase this wave Friday the 13th. And very long story short, I pulled into a barrel and on a big wave, and the lip basically crashed on my head. And I took probably one of my worst beatings of my life, and probably could have drowned, but had a lot of willpower, and it all came together. But at the end of the day, I had a lot of people relying on me, and I basically stuck it out and stayed on the jet ski and made sure everyone was safe until the end of the day. And then I worried about my injuries, and I'm dealing with that right now. I have 3 fractured ribs and a compression fracture in my T12, which is categorized as a broken back. I'm still walking, breathing, totally fine, but mentally, it hit me pretty hard. I think there's a lot of strong willpower in all of us. As we get older, we're not, flexible, we don't bounce back as easy as we thought, but in our head, we still have it. I could go do a ski run, and, 20 years ago, I was like, oh, I'm sending it off this cliff, no problem, without any thought. Now I'm like, okay, I've been in the gym a ton. Am I feeling it? Are the conditions right? Like, there's a lot more thought process that goes into it, knowing that 50-50, if I blow it, I'm in the hospital and I'm not going to get out. I'm not going to bounce back as quick. So I think it's a big struggle for athletes, anyone really, when to say when. And I look at people like Robert Owens. There is no when. I think it's in our blood, no matter what, and I'm not content yet to say I'm done, but I do think a lot more logically, and I'm a little more patient, and I think smarter now than I was before. And so I pick and choose when it's time to send it, or I send it a little bit less, but it still fuels the fire because I'm still doing what I love. But it's a lot more of a reality now as we get older to go, hey, do I, push myself beyond, and then suddenly I'm paying for it in the hospital, or I pushed it a little too far, which impacts family and friends. And so I've finally come to that place where I never thought I'd be. And I always told people I will never stop being an athlete. But the reality is we have, friends, family around that count on us, and I'm just a little bit smarter. So I'm saying, don't quit. I train a little harder, so then that confidence is always there, and continue doing what you love. I think we change a little bit as we get older on what makes us happy, but I think still being out there doing what we love, even at a lower capacity, is still being there in the moment. And that's what it's all about. So and then the training, one little thing, I do a lot of stuff with Deep End Fitness, which is a training that we do in the pool, breath hold, and kind of being under pressure, walking on the bottom of the pool with weights, which has been an amazing thing for me to kind of get through injuries and still mentally and physically be at a high level. And that has helped me with a lot of this as well.
Awesome. I really appreciate it, Chuck. Thank you. So hopefully I can stay out of the hospital. I had surgery on this shoulder, and now I need surgery on this one. I'm waiting, so I'll take your advice and take it a little slow.
Take it a little slower, but still, I think we're the happiest when we're in the moment. Yeah.
Exactly.
All right, we have one last quick question from the West Coast, from Bruce in Oregon.
Thanks, Kathy and Chuck. It was really great. I just actually sent Kathy a quick message saying that Raphael stole my thunder. He asked a question similar to one I was going to ask, but I'll take it to the next level. And that was, I wanted to get your sense of whether you think athletes are tending to stretch their careers later into life, that maybe there's a trend afoot with people like Tom Brady, for instance, who could show that they could compete at such a high level at an age that people would long since have retired because of the issues that you just referenced?
I think you're right. I mean, I think we're seeing way more athletes. We have Kelly Slater, who's, a couple years younger than myself, still best surfer in the world, Tom Brady, Robert Owens. I mean, there's a lot of people that I have even, met that are in their 80s and 90s that I see paddling every day. And I always ask what their secret is. And they're like, you never stop moving. It's like rust. So I think with technology, training, the passion and love for sport, that we're seeing a lot more people really, that longevity is going for, a lot longer than it has in the past. And I think it's because of, how things are changing, what's accessible for all of us. And I think there's a drive. I mean, when you're an athlete, we have that driven, drive of competition, and maybe the competition is within ourselves. You're competing against yourself to kind of prove like, I still got it, or it's with other friends. And I think that's the norm. And I love to see it. I mean, there's a lot of women athletes that I have really grown to love, because they have so much passion, and there's so much to learn from women because they're a little more emotionally into it, but they also understand when to kind of let it go, where I think we have a little bravado where we try to prove it a little bit harder, and we pay the consequences a little bit more. But I really love that we're seeing more athletes and people in general pushing it more. And I think that's what keeps us young in a way.
Thanks, Chuck.
Thank you.
Guys, this has been an unbelievable hour. You guys asked for legends, we bring you legends. You asked for outliers, we bring you outliers. Chuck, man, you are amazing. Wishing you a speedy recovery, and I'm sure we're going to see you out there soon doing more great things. But this has really been inspirational, and so many unbelievable takeaways for us to talk about in the coming weeks. So can't thank you and Trish enough. And again, congratulations on your marriage. It's exciting. Chuck got married New Year's Eve to Trish. And again, just can't thank you enough, my man.
Well, thank you guys so much. It's truly an honor. I am very grateful to be a part of this crew, and I look forward to watching some more of this, and thank you all again for the great questions.
You're officially an outlier now. So thank you. Kathy, I don't know if you want to play the intro, outro one more time, but I'll stay on for a little bit of overtime. And then I've got a speaking engagement a little bit later. Awesome. Chuck, thanks again. What's on tap for you the rest of the day?
Well, speaking of recovery, it's kind of like I've had to interview many sports therapists to figure it out, but I'm going to go see a good guy in Newport, and kind of start my recovery with a little extra dynamite so I could get going and then just train and just get back in the program, you know.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. I can't thank you enough for joining us. And Robert, what an epic introduction to one of your buddies. I so appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Robert.
Robert, you're on mute. Robert's been at sea for 43 days. He doesn't know what the hell's going on. He's upside down. He's sideways.
My question, hey, Robert, if I may, what's next for you?
I think he's frozen.
Oh, is he? Oh, he might.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. That is a good question. Chuck, is there a sport you haven't tried that you're like, I want to give this one a shot?
He's great at pickleball.
No.
Pickleball.
Like pickleball. No. No, I mean, there's a lot of sports, but I think I've come to a point where, you know, some of the things might be a little bit too crazy, and I think I'm content, you know. I always wanted to, I did base jumping for a while, and I always wanted to really kind of try the what is it, the wingsuit flying.
Yeah,
I have a lot of friends that do it, but I can take it or leave it. It's not a big deal now that, you know, I'm so into the water stuff that I'm doing, and now I've gotten into coaching, you know, some younger athletes, and that to me is I think been a great staircase to kind of not step down, but step to the side a little bit, and still be in the moment and sharing what I've done and learned, and still being out there, but just not feeling that pressure to have to push it to the next level. You know?
Right.
RHO is back now.
Oh.
Robert, you were frozen for a second there.
Chuck asked you, Robert, what's next for you? A nap? No, you're back on mute.
How about now? Is that good?
Yes.
You're good.
You know, probably going to call Chuck and say, what therapist are you going to? And I probably want to go to the same one.
Yeah, right. At 2 for 1.
Yeah. It's like coming back from something and you're saying, okay, how do I rehab this? And what kind of training do you need to do to sort of get back to normal? And anyway, I'm looking forward to having a talk with Chuck and a smoothie sometime. And what's next for me? I don't know. I know that, I wanted to do the North Pole Marathon, and that got blown up by the Ukraine war. And I think the North Pole is still closed down because of the Ukraine war. So I think that's probably going to pass again. I don't know. It's just trying to be normal in some way, and then have a few dreams out there and see which ones are legit at which age,
Absolutely amazing. I mean, yeah, I mean, I know you guys are going to talk about this down the line, but I have to say, just between you and me, it's you. I don't think there is a norm. I mean, I think for you, you've always been striving to push what you've always loved to do. And it's at such a crazy high level, but it's not crazy. And I think that to you is normal, and it's so inspiring. So I'm always kind of like, how do you get off of such the high that you're at? Not saying get off, but then blend it. Now that you're at home, you're obviously needing a little rest, but at the same time, you have so much, in your head of like what you've accomplished. I know that fire is still burning and you're not going to let it go out. So what's like the next ticker that's almost at that same level? I mean,
I think that like you've got to hear something that just goes, oh, it just kind of captures you. And probably what I'd like to do is I'd like to spend some time just coaching and teaching kids, military guys, on endurance stuff, and sort of download all the stuff that I've been learning, because I haven't done it just for me. I've done it because when I work with these special ops guys, and endurance and sleep deprivation and pain, you always want to be able to give more. And I want to give more in this next season. And I'm sure that like you'll hear something and you'll go, oh, I think that might be hot. You don't tell anybody for a while. And you just sort of, then you set the table a little bit, and I was sort of thinking,
Yeah.
Is that how you approach your wife, Robert, with your adventures? Hey, I just thought of this. We should bring. Yeah, I saw you turn around to make sure she wasn't there. I think Trish is right off camera.
Oh yeah, she is.
Chuck's got to be careful.
Chuck, how did you meet Trish?
Wow. I mean, oh gosh, I met her a long time ago doing a stand-up paddle event. We were racing, and one of her sons went out to race, and it was really like victory at sea conditions on Lake Tahoe, and he was having a hard time getting through the waves and during the race, and so I went out and kind of helped him and got him out there, and then I had met her and knew her for a long time. She was married at that time, and so we're just all really good friends. And then for some weird reason, we reconnected on a phone call, and then I remember going, she's available now. I've got to ask her on a date. So I asked her, and then she pretty much didn't give me the time of day. She was like, nah, not going to happen. And then I think it was a good, I don't know, maybe a year and a half. And then finally we went on a date, and then we've been inseparable ever since. So very fortunate.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. You guys are the best. Thanks for hanging in there. I have a half an hour before I speak at the World Staffing Summit. So awesome. If my voice holds out for that,
go rest that voice.
It will be a miracle. But thanks, guys. Chuck, you're the best. We'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Feel better.
See you all. Have a great day. Thanks,
everybody.
Take care.
Thank you, everyone.
See ya.